year of the event, WMBD will inspire the activity of birdwatching, a pastime enjoyed by some 86 million Americans with deeper meaning. WMBD will teach participants at more than 700 locations how to identify birds, how to connect with them, and how to delve deeper into bird biology. Investigating such topics as the difference between bird song and call, the mysteries of migration, and the astounding power of flight. This year's World Migratory Bird Day will explore what makes birds unique and how and why so many of them make long migrations. With approximately 10,400 bird species globally and approximately 900 species in the United States, birds are ambassadors of the natural world. They help us to connect with nature and understand the interconnections among all things. They sing, they fly. So we have a fantastic speaker with us today to educate us about birds. Dr. Seneviratne, Dr. Sampath Seneviratne has a Ph.D. in Evolutionary Ecology from the Memorial University in Canada. He's a senior lecturer in Zoology, Department of Zoology and Environment Sciences, University of Colombo. He's also the president of the field Ornithology group of Sri Lanka and the Sri Lankan Ecological Association. He's a consultant biologist, evolution, conservation, genetics, and ornithology. He was a postdoctoral fellow at the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, Bird Studies Canada, Pacific Wildlife Research Center in Canada, Beaty Biodiversity Museum, Vancouver, Canada, and a teaching fellow in the Department of Zoology, Vancouver, Canada, and a teaching fellow in the Department of Zoology, University of British Columbia in Canada. Dr. Seneviratne has been carrying out research at the Avian Evolution Node Laboratory, Sri Lanka, on Sri Lankan endemic birds using phylogenetic sister pairs, and has been credited with the discovery of 4 new species to science, including a bird, tree snake, and 2 parasites. Dr. Seneviratne, we warmly welcome you to this webinar today, and I will let you take it away from this point.
I will thank you very much for the introduction. I'll optimize for the video clips, and I'll share my screen first, and then we can talk. I think yes, you can't see me. Okay. Anyway, so thank you very much for the great introduction. I'm not the president of FOG now. I'm the vice president. Professor Kotagam is the president for this year. And then anyway, thank you for the introduction. And I think I'm not a stranger to the Photography Art Society anymore now. I've done a talk last year and been in the audience for many of your very interesting talks. So thank you for having me. It's a very interesting, strange day. I was in the field for 3 days without internet, much of internet, and even phone calls. I'm developing a research station, field research station in Belihula area. So basically, I was in the field, try to get some logistics done. And so Gayomini Panagoda, one of my PhD students, helping me with getting some of the material for the slides and over the phone. And then I thought to go back to Colombo this afternoon, but because of the weather and related matters, things at my field site got a bit complicated. So I eventually came to one of my colleagues, Dr. Sandun Pereira, a biogeographer and a field biologist. um, actually probably a good future speaker for the America, Sri Lanka Photographic Society. He works on various aspects of large mammals to birds to the reptiles, and he's a South African trained scientist. So I came here, and so having them, like, they had me here, but then the power went off. Now I'm on my back to my dongle, and with a kind of a portable power source. So I hope that I have, my computer says that about 80% power in my battery, so should be fine. I'll be eventually a bit sweaty, not because of the stress or anything. It's just that it's an eventful day. So please excuse me if my power in my computer goes off, then I'm in trouble. Otherwise, hopefully eventually the power will come, and then we will have the high-speed internet and all the facilities. So
we totally understand,
that,
Dr. Seneviratne.
yes.
You're good to go. Yeah.
Sure. Yes. So with that, I will start my presentation. And also, it is, since I was in the field, and I was fairly, it was paper marking and a lot of other things happened over the past 3 weeks. So, and some research work and field work, and then the arranging logistics for this new station. So I've kind of tried to give you some snapshots. The first time that we've done some work over the past 2-3 years, and now with the onset of migration, we are getting some very interesting, I would say, groundbreaking information from our field sites. So every day, my Ph.D. student Gayamini sending me some photos or maps, and then I'm sending it to somebody else, and then getting feedback, and journalists calling. So there's a fair bit of things happening in the background for the past 2 weeks, really. So I thought to put some of those into a presentation, and then talking about the frontiers in migration studies. Rather than talking about this many migrants in Sri Lanka, this many vagrants, you read any old or new, or will be publishing field guides, and they have the same old story again and 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 again, coming from 1700s, from the colonial naturalists to the modern field guides. I don't see much had changed over the past 200 years. So what we try to do, we try to go beyond that mundane kind of the path, basically copying somebody else's information into a field guide, and selling it as with your name in it, to go beyond that practice and to try to create knowledge. Creating knowledge in other parts of the world is very challenging, very bumpy road, because the system is not supporting at times. Sometimes people don't worry about new knowledge. They can they think that they can get that knowledge from internet or from Google. So there are hardships, but still, what we know about birds, what we know about their migration, what we know about the connectivity of this planet from one Arctic to the tropics, came from people who went that extra length and seek that the knowledge, and that knowledge is precious. So I will show you some of these methods, that the new methods, old methods, and what we don't know, and with that, what we are starting to know over the past few weeks. Let's start with migration. Today is the World Migratory Bird Day. So I think it's quite fitting. I knew that. I asked actually when you guys approached me, can you do this talk? I said, can I do it 9th tomorrow, because I knew that I was in the field. I will be in the field on the 8th. And then the problem is that today is the Migratory Bird Day. And also today is another interesting day. Today is the Global Big Day. Global Big Day of the named on in the basis of eBird, the one of the largest global citizen science platforms, over 10 million entries. It is basically the Facebook of the bird world, and it is so widespread now. It produces amazing data using general public data from general public data from interested citizen scientists or interested parties across all forms of all walks of life. People just go out and bird and produce these data points, maps, and that creates it's a wave of new information. And today is the celebratory global big day of the eBird. So it's an interesting day. So I also about to submit a eBird checklist to celebrate that. Anyway, coming back. So what is migration? The migration is it's a relatively long distance movement of individual animals, usually on a seasonal basis. It is found in all major animal groups like birds, mammals, fish, reptiles, amphibians, insects, and so on. Let's see some of the examples. So this is a leatherback turtle, the largest of all marine turtles, tagged in somewhere near Panama, and it swims across the Caribbean Sea. You can see the dates, the October, August, and now September, and now it's crossing the near. It swam all the way near Newfoundland, and then going further northeast, and by November, mid-November, it is approaching the European shelf, and now by December, by Christmas, it's near Spain, and it goes like that. And so this map goes like that, and then it comes south along the eastern Atlantic shelf, and then eventually, so this is just kind of summary of that. By January, one second, I'll get the laser pointer. Yeah, by January 2009, within 2 years, it swam across the Atlantic, and eventually it will come back to somewhere in the Western Atlantic. Somewhere it was born or it was captured. So that is migration. And this is another example, the great white shark between Hawaii, San Francisco, and in between. As you can see, it is very predictable. It is very, very kind of, in a way, this is annual, and you can see the months in this axis. These are multiple sharks doing that. And one of the great, another form of migration is in Africa, in the Great African Plains, from Masai Mara to Ngorongoro to Serengeti. These dry African plains get water from the rains, and these large antelopes in millions follow that green grass, basically following the rain, and it is again cyclic, predictable, and they do that in a year-round fashion. The greatest, one of the very interesting form of migration happening in North America, these monarch butterflies, they do that, as you can see, that they move north. But the interesting thing is they move all the way up to Toronto, Canada, or the Canadian border, and then come back. But the interesting about their migration is that they do it in multiple generations. So the butterfly that starts this journey in Panama, in Mexico, dies on the way, and give rise to another larvae, egg and larvae, and the newly emerged butterflies continue the journey. And then by the fourth generation, the butterflies fly south. So it's amazing. It is like, it's an amazing example of the genetics of migration, where subsequent generations complete the journey that one of the grandparents of that butterfly started. But still, we call the bird migration the greatest migration, or the birds do the greatest migration in the planet. Why? Before that, I'll give you a quick kind of a history thing. People thought that people in European, medieval Europe, and then beyond in the early days, in the 17th century and beginning of the 18th century, people observed that the birds disappear in the winter and then reappear in the spring. So there were theories that they go to hibernation. Some thought they fly into the sky. Some thought they might fly somewhere warm. And these white storks breed in the roofs of populated cities. Once upon a time, people saw that, or a few cases, people realized that they come with these spears in their neck. The live birds flying, but with a entangled spear. For some reason, they didn't kill by the spear. And these flistorch birds, or the birds with the spear injuries, somebody studied the spears and realized that these spears are not from European areas. So they studied it further and realized that they are actually from Southern African Bushmen. So that was the first time that the modern science, or the Western science that we normally follow, realized that these birds fly like thousands of kilometers south in order to escape this winter and come back. As you can see that this particular photo that I just downloaded from the internet, and that Bushman uses basically the same spear like the one found in this one. This one was in the British Museum. It's actual specimen collected with the spear in attached. And in the recent studies, we know that these birds fly south, and some birds fly south along the Nile River into the southern Africa. Some birds fly through Gibraltar Sound of Mexico, of Spain, and to the Western Africa. Let's see how they do it. I hope you can hear. Can you hear the music?
Yes, doctor. We can hear the music.
Okay. Great. With the music, it's much sweeter. So these are data from data loggers. So these data points are actual. So you can see that they fly south into Africa, and probably this is where they encounter these Bushman's here. And in the spring, they fly back. Again, highly ritualized, highly predictable. That's why I call it the greatest dance on this planet. And in the spring, they come back to Europe. These are these white storks. They come to Sri Lanka also as a very rare migration. And it continues again in the next fall. About September to October, they again start this southern flight, and do the same. Some fly through Gibraltar, some fly through Gaza Strait into the Eastern Africa. And all right, let's see something a bit dramatic. Again from Europe, from this one from satellite tag birds. Two birds, European honey buzzards. The blue one is a male, the pink one is a female. You can see that it's there in this European city, and now they are migrating. Now they are migrating. The male starts first, and they are crossing the Gibraltar, and they are crossing the Western Africa, and the male stops at the Western African coast, and the female goes further south. And now in the spring it's coming back. The female flies through Sahara. The male flies this elevation is also actual. The male is already female rejoin, and now we get to the pair again. Okay, so that's quite rhythmic, almost like a dance. If you fast forward this you'll see that this is happening every fall and every spring. Millions and millions of birds do that across the globe, from Arctic to Antarctic, uh, coming to warm areas and leaving. Some of the most extraordinary migrations seen in the Arctic terns, where the white line shows this Arctic tern travels about 34,000 kilometers south, and then its northward journeys 25,000 kilometers. It breeds in Arctic and overwinter in Antarctic. This black one, another individual, Arctic tern, it flies south. The southern trip is 29,000 kilometers, and the northern one is 19,000 kilometers. So this is an extraordinary, extreme case. This is about 250-gram bird, and it lives about 20 years, and its journey is about nearly 70,000 kilometers. And if you add that into about 15 to 20 cycles, it flies several times from here to the moon and back, about 2 to 3 times during its lifetime. So for a 150-gram thing, so it has a huge heart, literally and philosophically, I guess, to sustain that travels. It has a very tight, tough flight muscles, and a very iron-rich, hemoglobin-rich blood to do that. Right, coming back to Sri Lanka and our region, there are several major flyways. There's 8 such flyways, and Sri Lanka falls into this Central Asian flyway, where majority of birds to Sri Lanka comes as migrants through this Central Asian flyway. And as you can see, the Central Asian flyway is a big triangle, where the western border is the Eastern Europe, eastern border is somewhere in the far eastern Russia. It may go to Alaska as well, and then the southern point is Sri Lanka. So this is one of the eight main global bird migratory flyways, where millions of birds do that, use this flyway, and of that flyway we are the southernmost tip. So it's very interesting place where we are, because this flyway ends there. And Central Asian flyway is an interesting flyway in another way. It is a landlocked flyway. As you can see, the birds has to fly through land. They don't have water and oceans that much. And also it has the towering Himalayas in the middle, and then the great plateaus, Tibetan Plateau, Tian Shan Range, and then the central Siberian Plateau, and so on. So it's very tough, very rugged, almost like a hurdle race where these birds have to fly thousands of kilometers in extremely high mountain, passing extremely high, tall mountain ranges, very high plateaus, very dry deserts, and waterless areas. So it's a relatively one of the most challenging flyways for the global birds. And coming back to even further into Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka has about 500 species of birds, and of that, about half are migrants. Of that, about 120 or so vagrants. That means very rare migrants. They are not coming as a usual visitors, but the rest, about 150 or so, are regular annual migrants doing that dance, where Sri Lanka is it's their southern destination. And as you can see with this image, you can see the Himalayas and the snow-clad north. Sri Lanka is a very special place. So where they come from and how they come, how they do that. Most people who know a little bit about birds of Sri Lanka, or interested in a natural history of Sri Lanka, would tell us, okay, they have 3 routes, western route and an eastern route, and they come through that. And then there's some even say that there's Andaman route, and so on. How we know that? those are just guesses. These are the stories that first broke off in, I think, 1700s by early naturalists, mostly people on horseback, observing birds and hunting. And then they were passed into the 18th century, and those stories were passed into the 19th century, and then into the 20th century. And still, everybody in Sri Lanka knows that birds come flying along the western route, and some fly through the eastern route, and some flies crossing the Bay of Bengal to Sri Lanka. But how we know that? No data. We don't know. Those are just stories passed from 17th century to now. And even some field guides have list of species that use the western route, central route, and eastern route, and the Andaman route. The problem is we have no clue to tell that where they come from. We know where they breed, and we know that they are coming here. So how they do that is just a guess. It's like some of you are in say Seattle, Washington State, and you were born in say Galle, Sri Lanka. So somebody would say, oh, you flew from Galle to Colombo, Colombo to Doha, Doha to UK Heathrow, and then from there to probably New York, and then New York to Seattle. It's a good guess that, but most of you who are in the West Coast would know that that is not the only way possible. You can fly to Bangkok or to Singapore, and then to Hong Kong or to Philippines, and then to or Japan or China to the West Coast. So, but somebody in 17th century decided that oh, they must have traveled through Heathrow, London Heathrow, and everybody just regurgitating that same, I would say, shit. So actually, where they come from? We know that Sri Lanka is a very critical geographic location, so it is quite critical for biogeography of the planet. But how the animals use this landscape, what they are thinking when they fly, and what those small brains, those old brains, those brains that do this for millions and millions of years, how they feel that. It may or may not be the same way a Suddha on a horseback or a follower of that Suddha would think. So, so let's start from Rama's Bridge. This is the so-called Adams Bridge, but again, it's a name that been hijacked or by the Western forces. This is the Rama's Bridge. The traditional, the Eastern stories tell that the story of Rama, Sita, and Ravana. And this is the bridge that apparently the mythical the Hanuman and its monkey army produced. And this is very interesting because this is the link that connects Sri Lanka, the island of Sri Lanka, to the mainland India. Rama's Bridge is very interesting and important for us, for myself, and the studies of migration in Sri Lanka, because we have a research station dedicated to the studies of migration there. There's lots of birds, and we do birding there. We catch them, we tag them. I trained a few postgraduate students there, and there's lots of interesting science happening there. And the main thing we do is the studies of migration using both old and new techniques to generate conventional data and modern data to understand how birds come to Sri Lanka and why they come and what are the routes that they take, and also how they do that. Do they fly like in one go from A to B, or would they use B, C, D, E, F like that in the process of doing that? For that, we catch them in these mud flats in the Adams Bridge, or the Brahmas Bridge, or the Urumale, that's what the local name in that area, in the Urumale mudflats. And then we put them in these bags, cloth bags. That is the best way to hold a bird without injure the bird. And then we measure them, we collect blood, we put specific devices, rings and all to understand this. And these are students of a molecular biology class about 2 years ago. So students specializing molecular biology and immunology, students specializing environment sciences, students specializing zoology from Rajarata University, Colombo University, Peradeniya University, veterinary faculty comes there, and also some of the private universities. Also students come there to study and understand this process. The conventional way of knowing where a bird comes is the leg bands. These leg bands. They are metal bands. Sometimes they are plastic. I'm extremely sorry again, but all right. So I stopped at here, but I won't. You can hear me okay, right? Yes.
Yes, doctor. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Medini. Okay. So I stopped here, but I won't repeat what I said because to save time and not to bore the audience. And again, thank you very much for waiting and bearing all this. So these are the tags, the plastic tags and metal tags. And for example, some of these tags we saw, like for example, over the past 3 years, this red shank is visiting us every year into the same exact mudflat and getting entangled in the same exact mist net. So they are that much attached to that wetland. They overwinter somewhere in the Central Asian flyway, but they come back. This particular bird, for example, come back to its exact spot in that mudflat and getting entangled in our nets. So they can be that specific. And Indians done that very well. These are some of the records of their I'll get the laser pointer. Yes, this is some of the examples of their banding and recovering program. And you can see that these pin-tailed ducks, this duck that is in this image, flies all over the northern Russia and comes to India. So this is some of their banding stations, and some actually come to Sri Lanka. And these maps are from satellite tagging maps. As you can see that the routes that they get from banding, old-fashioned banding, is quite crude, but still they give interesting information. As I mentioned, the newest concept is the leg flags, and Sri Lanka has this green code. Anywhere in the world, if a green tagged bird is seen, that's a bird tagged in Sri Lanka. So these are some examples of these green tags. This is a crab plover, as you can see, N00, F05. So if you are a digital photographer with a decent lens, it doesn't have to be that hi-fi, very long lenses, with a even decent camera or a digiscope, photo would show this, and you would be able to read that. These are some of the birds that we've flagged. This is the first time in Sri Lanka, and we've been doing it over the past year now. So another example, and in this case, this bird is satellite tagged. So you can see the satellite tag here, my dirty hands with sand and all, and then the green flagging. One interesting example of the power of this came last year, just before the lockdown. One of the Indian birders in Sri Lanka photographed this bird. This is a great knot, a rare bird, but you can see that H29, yellow and black and white. So this is, its code is black over, so white, black over white, yellow H29. And this bird apparently been banded in, flagged in 2014 by Chinese field biologists in north of Shanghai, and it flew from Shanghai to Manna, apparently for some reason. And then actually these birds breed in Kamchatka Peninsula and north in the far eastern Russia. So this is where the beginning of the height of the COVID-19. So we also were wondering what that means. At that time, we didn't know much about the SARS-CoV-2, but that is 2020. So anyway, so these tagged birds can give you interesting insights. Also in our lab, we do genetics. The molecular mechanics also help to unravel where these birds come from. This is Hughlin gulls in Sri Lanka. The one in the bottom H, the number H is a Hughlin. As you can see, these guys are these gulls, these fuscus gulls. You have the herring gull in North America and also the slaty-backed gull in North America, the same system. But we have Hughlins gull, steppe gull, and so on. So they are in the old world. There are different species, breeds in different locations. But when you do genetics, you show that some of these birds are quite unique, but their coloration varies from extreme black to almost pale gray backs. So Sri Lanka also get dark backed gulls. We think they are Hughlins, but I will tell you a story later. So just remember this slide. So that the cutting edge of these technologies, tracking technologies, is the satellite tagging, as I mentioned. There's two ways you can do that. You can tag this sort of a tag which directly communicates with the satellite. We normally call them satellite tags, and those satellite tags are, this is charging, right? Should be. Yeah. So the satellite tags are directly communicating with the satellite. They are expensive because you have to pay a monthly subscription, but slightly cheaper but more modern version is the GPS GSM tags, where you use the satellite, the mobile technology. So we are using these modern GSM tags. The technology is kind of simple. You have a receiver and a tag, and it communicates with the satellite for the GPS location, and then it stored information and released back to us. I will just go through quickly. The advent of this technology actually sees the kind of proliferation during the avian influenza scare about 10 years ago, and about 15 years ago. Some of the early work of sophisticated satellite tagging actually done as part of the studies on avian influenza, because there was a idea that migratory birds could spread bird flu across its range. So there were a lot of studies, and what they showed that no, they don't, because to migrate, birds has to reach its higher peak of its physiological limits. If you are sick, you can't reach that high physiological level, so you die. Instead, what happened, avian influenza is mostly seen in poultry, in farm-reared birds, because they don't fly, and they are in aggregation under stress, and like the Chinese fish markets, everything is together, in a cramped area, and they are not flying, so they don't go into that high physiological level. Anyway, what satellite tagging tell us? They told us that the bar-headed goose, the one bird can actually fly over Himalayas, nearly 8,000 meters. The cruising altitude of a Boeing 747 is what they fly, with very little oxygen, with extreme physiological kind of activity. They fly over Himalayas. Now we know a few other birds also do that. Two other species, the steppe eagle and the black kite. Yesterday, one of our satellite tagged bird, we got data, actually done the same thing. But we thought to kind of keep that for now, because we wanted to double check the accuracy of the GPS device and all, to make sure that the data we got is actually credible. But anyway, so our system, as I mentioned, we are planning to tag 70 tags. We got 35. The other 35 tags are still stuck in the customs for about 2 months now. I have to write another letter on Monday. I have to write to the customs, to the treasury, to the central bank, to the inland revenue, export and import control, the telecommunication regulation commission of Sri Lanka, what else? Few other agencies, and I'm writing one letter at a time, and to get these tags out. So 35 are on birds, the other 35 are with the bureaucrats. Anyway, so coming back, so when they came out, they'll go like that onto these birds. So what kind of tags we use? These are the smallest ones that we use. They are called debut mini, 2 antenna small tags that could go into a bird. They communicate, they give us data almost real time. The medium-sized tags are single antenna, slightly bigger tags. They are about 9 grams heavy. The earlier ones are about 6 grams, so they can go to medium-sized birds. And then the heavier ones are called the Lego. Those are 23 gram bigger tags. They don't have an antenna. The antenna also inbuilt goes inside. And all these tags have solar panels. So these solar panels actually charge the battery during daytime. So these tags can go about 3 years. So that is a great thing, because earlier days the tags are basically limited by the battery power. So these are some of the examples of our tagged birds. We tagged red shanks, which is one of the commoner birds. We tagged these rare elusive crab plover to understand where they come from and whether they breed in Sri Lanka. We tagged these grey plovers, where they go into Arctic. The wimbrels, we don't know where they come from. This is the largest tern in the world, the Caspian tern. We tagged one. We tagged this bar-tailed godwit, which has a very interesting. It has the longest direct flight for any land bird in the planet. It is the world champion on that. So we tagged 2 of them, and we tagged its bigger cousin, the black-tailed godwits. We tagged these gulls, several species of gulls. They are very pretty, and they are giving us some of the exciting findings, which I will share with you, some of those, and also a few ducks. This is a shoveler, and this is a pigeon. So what they tell us, this red shank is showing that its local movement in the Urumale mudflat in the Talaimana. So you can see that these numbers, the blue means night, yellow means day. And these numbers means how many times that the data coming from. So 77 means it stayed fair bit, a lot of time feeding in that area. So, and we know that where it sleeps, where it spend night, where it spend the daytime. This bird feed both day and night. And this is a military establishment, a naval base. So it spent fair bit of time inside the Navy camp. So we were wondering what this red shank doing in the naval base, and we realized that they have a nice pond inside. So these birds go there under the protection of the Sri Lankan Navy. They can sleep and feed during daytime. So then some of them also went to India and came back. This is the crab plover, which shows some interesting information. Some went back and forth along the Manna Island. Some went to Iranatiu, Kakatiu, and came back. And one plover flew all the way from Manna to Kalamatia, kissing the eastern border. Crab plovers are not known from the eastern front and the southern front. They are there are few records in the early 20th century, but this bird showing us that they actually do that. Oops. A small problem. This is the, okay, I will get this my computer anyway on. This is the old presentation. Okay, so I'll get my computer anyway. Give me a second. sorry, I'll get my computer as well. The troubles are not over. My hard drive, this drive has a old presentation, oldish presentation. The vision. So these are the Eurasian visions that we tagged two Eurasian visions, a male and a female. We wanted to see whether they fly the same route or they fly different routes. Some of these visions within Sri Lanka, they flew to Jaffna through Iranathi. So the Iranathi being an interesting place where most of our tag birds, one way or another, use that as a stopover site. While I'm talking, I will get my computer back because it has the most updated presentation. Sadhu, can I have a thumb drive, please?
Sure.
So I can get that and transfer this.
Yeah.
Yes, right. And then in about 3 weeks ago, the male Eurasian vision flew to Jaffna and to eastern India, and now it's in a large river in Odisha called Mahanadi River. So it seems like flying towards the conventional eastern route. The female vision that we caught, this is the female one with the tag just before release in Mana. You can see the windmills in the background, and this is the Korakulam. Give me a second. I will get my computer back so that I have the. Can I switch back? Yeah,
That's also possible.
Yeah.
But then again, the connection.
Connection
is there.
But I can connect from there and then shift back. I'm sorry, the worries are still continuing. This is the slightly older version of the presentation. But anyway, so these guys, I don't think the next slide doesn't have the story about this guy. So this female vision didn't follow the male's route. It flew straight up I think, and it's heading towards probably the Indus Valley, where Indus Valley is one of the main valley that the migratory ducks use to pass Himalayas. Right. I will. Is there out there?
Yeah, I'll get that out.
I will get this. Give me a second. Give me 1 minute. Oh no, sorry, 10 seconds. I will transfer the two presentations. So
Sure, doctor.
Sorry about all this. I will stop sharing and I will transfer the presentation into the new presentation into this. All right. Okay, right. All right, back in my computer. How eventful day. All right, I'm optimizing it and now sharing my screen. Oh God. Okay. Now back in this and the presentation. Sorry, because apparently in the I had the old version, which is slightly different from the this, and I guess you can hear me okay, right?
Yes, doctor, we are hearing you loud and clear, and I believe now we can start seeing your presentation as well.
Yes, yes. Sorry about all this mess, but I guess that's the beauty. Anywhere in the world, I've done field work in Alaska for 5 summers. I've done field work in northern Labrador, in Amazon, in little bit in Europe, a lot in India. Uh, Anywhere in the world, you know, this can happen. The sometimes these the 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 internet technology can fail. So don't blame Sri Lanka for this particular bit. It can happen anywhere. Sorry, and
Yeah.
but anyway, I'll try to make sure that I'll make this as interesting as I could, as much as I could. Okay, so I stopped. I showed the red shank. The crab plover I haven't had the correct files as when I showed crab plover I realized that this is the old that I was using an old presentation. So the crab plovers, I'll get my laser pointer. The crab plovers overwinter in South Asia and in some parts of Africa and breeds in the Oman and the Middle East. But most of the Sri Lankan field guides are telling crab plover as a resident species. Why? Again, in 1800s, somebody thought that they are resident. So ever since then, most of the field guys just stating that they are residents. So we wanted to know whether they are actually residents or not. So these are some of the movement of these crab plovers. They are flying back and forth in the Ramas Bridge and in certain areas, and then they fly around, and then one actually came to Kalamati and spent the winter there. And now we are waiting the signal to come back. They are kind of out of range, so we know that they are probably not in Sri Lanka right now, but we don't know where exactly they are. And I was talking about the vision, the male vision. They're supposed to be in somewhere in the north, breeding, but these guys flying, the guy flew to Mahanadi River and they are right now there. And then the female flew straight up, didn't follow the male, and now she's flying further north and the male is still in Mahanadi River. The Hughlin gull, it's an interesting one. This is the gull that I was talking about earlier. The genetics show that the Hughlini, Larus hughlini, breeds in this area. This is Larus. This is Larus vega. This is Larus Thymerensis. This is Larus barbarensis, Cachinens, and so on. So the different species or subspecies, people still debate on that, use different areas in the Arctic. And our bird that tagged in Sri Lanka, this is kind of news fresh from the oven. It flew to east and then crossed India, went into the Indian border, crossed the Pakistan, and then to Kandahar, Afghanistan, to Uzbekistan, then Kazakhstan, and now in Russia. I'll show you how it does that. So first, we banded it in the Urumalai, Talaimana area in the tip of Mana Island, and then it flew to along the Rama's bridge probably got pissed off because we were handling it. It's a big bird, very pretty, relatively calm. We put a like debut Lego large tag. This is the first time that the migratory behavior of this particular species been looked at. So the some of the international agencies that we were collaborating with were very excited about it. So they were, so this one flew up to the end of the Rama's bridge and then flew north to Point Calumet and flew across India, and then from Gujarat it flew to Pakistan, and from Pakistan it flew to, sorry, I kind of missed this, flew to Pakistan to Afghanistan through Kandahar, and it crossed the Kandahar mountains, about 3,500 meters, and then into Tajikistan, and from there to Uzbekistan, and then to Kazakhstan, and now in Russia. So it is going towards Arctic. Right now it is traveling about 300 to 400 kilometers per day. Sometimes stay one day in one place, but basically slowly traveling. No visas, no passports. Kind of envious in this COVID-19 lockdowns. We are stuck. We can't even, go to, cross provinces in certain cases. Airports are closed, but these guys are now, they've traveled from Sri Lanka to India to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, and now it's in its 8th country over the past 1.5 weeks. So I'll show you some photos. This is Jude, the guy who recently discovered a new species of flora at our field sites with part of our team. My son, this is around 3 o'clock in the morning. So we caught this bird about 10 o'clock. So we put the tag and about to release, so everybody is tired. My son also had the guts to stay up to see how we put that. This was our first satellite tag bird. So we were all kind of excited. Gayamini is one of my PhD students. She's the kind of in charge of the banding station. And Tilini, she'll be heading to Western Canada for her PhD in 2 months from now. These are some of the other team. This is with the crab plover. This is Tarindu. He's at University of Alberta. He just left Sri Lanka about a month ago. And this is Kavindya. She'll be going to Minnesota in another 2 months from now for her PhD. So anyway, so most of my students actually travel to your parts of the world for their PhDs and higher studies on different aspects of birds. This is another class. Some of my research students and the general class is there. This is Dr. Nilmini Jayasena, one of the vets that work with us. She's from University of, I think, Texas. She did her PhD there. And this is with another, gray plover. And this is our Hughlin skull from 3 weeks ago. So it's sitting, as you can see. I don't have to even hold it. It's kind of quite comfortable there. Normally, most of our satellite tag birds, after tagging, is quite comfortable. So this is Jayani, another PhD student at the lab. She's doing her PhD at Uppsala in Sri Lanka, University of Colombo, one of my 4th year undergrads. Jude, and then Sahan is working on infectious diseases like coronaviruses with bats with another lab in Colombo and in Germany. Anyway, these are some of the equipment that we use. These are the flags and then the banding kits and all. This is at Vaio Resort in Mannar. So we are basically tagging birds there in the tip of the Rama's bridge. And this is an example of one of our banded birds. You can see that the satellite tagged antenna is there. The tag is almost hidden there. and then the two bands are there. With that, I will show you one last video, and I'll close this. So this is you can hear this video, okay, right?
Yes, doctor.
So this is a small story about migratory duck. It's so sweet and so pretty, and it's art, it's photography, cinematography. So I thought you would enjoy. Please read the captions below their story. These are not domesticated ducks, these are wild ducks. These are white-fronted geese, for example. These are common cranes. Okay, with that, I will end my presentation. Sorry, it went a little bit longer because of these technical glitches. It's not a, yeah, basically the power related glitch. It's heavily raining. I think something went wrong. But again, thanks to Sandun and his son and his wife and his family and some of the academics at the Sabaragamu University ran around to get an extra computer and to, I think they called the CEB, Central Ceylon Electricity Board, to find out what's going on with the power and so on. So thanks for them, and then probably I will get some dinner with them as well, and then I'll head back tonight back to Colombo, after my fieldwork. So yeah, so this one is again a collaboration where a few parties involved. The local work is done by supported by Palmyra House and Tokyo Cement. University of Colombo and the FOG Field Ornithology Group of Sri Lanka is the main our the place that I kind of work and operate. I have my lab, Avian Evolution Node. Professor Kotagama is one of the key collaborators. So as Dr. Tej Mudka from Wetlands International, Professor Lai Kao from the University of Chinese Academy of Sciences, Dr. Balachandran from Bombay Naturalistic Society, India, and then Mr. Nyanam, the main local sponsor, and then the Peradeniya University, Yang Liu from China, BirdLife International, Wildlife Department. We have a small research station, the Sandpiper House at Mena, and then my lab, and then students, Sri Lankan Navy. This is a whole assortment of public and private organizations helping us, supporting us, and providing us the resources that we need. So, and then the enthusiastic nature lovers like you always make our job a fun thing and a kind of a celebration at times. So with that, thank you very much. And I think
Yes, Dr.
this,
Sampath. Yeah.
yes,
Um,
yeah,
well,
I will
I
stop.
know it's a collaborative effort, and I know that we have a large group of students in the audience today to learn from you, and I'm sure they're anxious to ask few questions from you as well. And I know they're joining from all parts of the world. So before we let you go, I'm going to give the opportunity to a couple of students to ask a few questions from you, if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I know we have a student joining us from Canada. Let me talk to Akash first. Akash, so little bit about Akash. He is 17 years old and attends St. Joseph's Catholic High School in Barrie, Ontario, Canada. And I know Akash was a panelist recently with us, with several other students from all parts of the world. So Akash is very interested in neuroscience, and he also plays the electric guitar, loves playing ice hockey, and loves to read, and that's his pastime. So Akash, welcome, and thank you so much for joining the audience today. So over to you to ask your questions from Dr. Seneviratne.
Thank you. And thank you for a wonderful presentation. I was just wondering, what impact do humans have on the migratory travels of birds?
Yes, there are different levels of impact. The biggest impact that we do have is the habitat destruction, because we destroy their breeding habitats in the north. We destroy their eggs, chicks, and their opportunity to feed their young ones by destroying their food chain or food web. And also we destroy their wintering grounds, the forests, the wetlands, and then stopover sites. They need to stop and refuel as they fly. So it's like if you travel from, say, California to Seattle, or if you travel from across North America, you can't travel with one full tank, right? You have to refuel it time to time. So they have over the millions of years, they have these set refueling stations. But the poor thing come one day and realize that the gas station is gone, something like that. So if when we destroy wetlands and there are key refueling stations, we do it overnight, and thousands of birds die just because they don't have more extra fuel to fly beyond. So that is, anyway, so destruction of habitat is a big thing. And then in certain parts of the world, people kill them large numbers for sport. For example, in the Eastern Europe, people shoot at migratory like flocks. It's just a traditional sport that they just shoot and they count how many fall. They kill on average a billion birds in one flight, one season. So that's a lot. And then in certain parts like Eastern Asia, people kill large numbers for food, like for very small birds like small sunbirds, flower peckers, to very large birds like eagles and ducks. So for different forms of meat. So that's another big problem. Another bigger issue is that this climate change and associated changes in the weather patterns. So all these kind of led to demise of about 60% of migratory birds in numbers over the past 3 decades. So that's a substantial reduction. And there are many species that are endangered because of these actions.
Well, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you, Akash. Thank you, Dr. Seneviratne. Now I would like to give the opportunity to a student from Sri Lanka, Tiara Ganegama. Tiara is 17 years old and currently studying for her advanced level. And she had an interest in nature from a very young age and was involved in conserving habitat for migratory birds in Mannar, Sri Lanka. Tiara, over to you.
Yes, Jera.
Thank you, Dr. Sampath, for the very insightful presentation. Really learned so much more on migratory birds. One question I had was on how birds actually navigate. How do they know the sort of the path they have to travel? Is it something passed on to them? Is it like an instinct? And also how they navigate during the night time?
I see. Yes, dear. I could remember you were there when we were satellite tagging a black-tailed godwit, right? Yeah, yeah. And I heard the adventures that you had with the float board. Uh, one of our Hughlin gulls that we caught is from the small sandbank that finally kind of you managed to clinch to. Anyway, so yes, good to see you. The question how they navigate, the birds can sense the magnetic north, so they can sense the magnetic north, so that the magnetic south, so they can figure north and south, so which mammals don't have that capacity. And then birds can see the polaroid light. What that means, they know in any time of the day where the sun is. So through sun, they can know east and west. So now, so through two different systems, they know north, south, east, west from the sun. Because of the polaroid light, they can see even at night where the sun, relative position of the sun through the kind of seeping light from the sides of the planet. So east, west, and then the north, south from the magnetism. So they basically know where they are in terms of the relative position of the planet. And then during migration, the studies has shown that they can detect the star constellations. Like us, like Orion, the North Bear, the Southern Cross, whatever that, different, the Libra, the Leo, there's so many different star constellations. So the birds also has the capacity. So they, at night when they fly, they know where north, they know where south and east and west. On top of that, they know where these star constellations, so they can use those like the ancient sailors done. And also they use the land, the patterns in the land during daytime. Where the oceans, it's like a pilot. Even though pilots use the sophisticated navigation aid, they still use actual visual aid near the airport. So like that, when they fly close to land and close to the ground, they use the mountain ranges, the rivers, lakes, forests, prominent trees, man-made structures, and so on. So it's a combination of all that matters. And then sometimes it can go wrong as well. If the adverse weather, if it is mist and fog, sometimes things can go wrong as well.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you, Tiara. So I see that we have several other students joining the Zoom session as well. I would like to give the opportunity to a student who has any questions to ask Dr. Seneviratne today based on his presentation. This is your opportunity. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. Anyone? Okay. Looks like we don't have any other further questions. So Dr. Seneviratne, thank you so much. It was a wonderful opportunity to bring you back into our webinar series. We learned a lot. It was very informative. And thank you so much. I know you had some technical challenges, but we got through all that. So I'm glad we were able to continue despite all the interruptions. So good luck with your research work, and we hope to see you again soon. And for the audience who joined us from all parts of the world, thank you so much for being with us and encouraging us to continue this webinar series, and we hope to see you back again soon. Until then, on behalf of the America Sri Lanka Photographic Art Society of Los Angeles, California, USA, bye for now. We'll see you soon. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.